Welcome, friend. I'm James, your host, and today, we're diving into another captivating episode. Grab a drink, get comfortable, and get ready for a powerful story that's sure to resonate. If something hits home, share your thoughts in the comments. Let's dive in. TIFU, I accidentally uncovered my boyfriend's mom's infidelity in the most awkward way possible. Obligatory, this actually happened about a year ago. I, 18F, was dating a guy named Jacob, 18M, and let me tell you, I was about to plunge headfirst into a chaotic family drama that I never saw coming. Jacob's family seemed like a quintessential southern suburban family, a dad in his early 60s who worked as a mechanic, a mom in her mid-50s who was a stay-at-home mom, and a couple of siblings who were just as typical. They lived in a charming house adorned with bright yellow shutters and a white picket fence, the kind of place you'd see on a postcard, where everything looked perfect on the outside but was hiding secrets within. The neighborhood was lined with similar homes, each one seemingly scripted from the same cheerful manual, with manicured lawns and friendly waves exchanged over white picket fences. The adults would often gather in the evenings, sharing laughs over barbecues while kids played tag in the cul-de-sac. It all felt so idyllic, but beneath that shiny exterior, I sensed an undercurrent of something darker, an unsettling feeling that the polished lives of Jacob's family were concealing hidden truths that would soon come crashing down. After a month of dating, they invited me over for dinner, eager to get to know their son's new girlfriend. The invite felt warm and welcoming, and I was excited to impress them. I arrived that evening, my nerves tingling like static electricity, dressed in a cute sundress that I thought would charm them. As I stepped inside, the aroma of fried chicken and cornbread wafted through the air, wrapping around me like a warm embrace. I was greeted with cheerful hellos and eager smiles, the sound of a baby cooing adding to the lively atmosphere. The dining room was adorned with family photos, capturing memories of happier times, moments that now felt painfully juxtaposed against the chaos that was about to unfold. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into a family dynamic more complex than I had anticipated, but I brushed it off, believing everything would go smoothly. As we gathered around the table, the soft glow of the chandelier above created a cozy ambience, but I sensed an edge to Jacob's mom's demeanor. Her polite smile sometimes faltering as she exchanged glances with her husband. It was a subtle warning, one that I was blissfully unaware of at the time. As the evening progressed, I shared my passion for volunteering at my college's blood drive, excited to find common ground with the family. Jacob's dad beamed with pride, announcing that he was O-negative, a universal donor. Jacob, sitting beside me with an affectionate smile, mentioned he shared the same blood type. The atmosphere felt light, and laughter flowed easily, but when his siblings chimed in, revealing they were both AB, I didn't think much of it. After all, Jacob had once mentioned his mom had been widowed before, so I assumed there was a logical explanation. But deep down, I felt something was off, a tension in the air that made my skin crawl. The conversations flowed like sweet tea on a summer day, but beneath the laughter lay an undercurrent of unease, a sensation that the bright smiles and casual banter were merely a thin veneer over a deeper, darker truth. I noticed Jacob's mom occasionally glancing nervously at her husband when the topic of blood type surfaced, as if she were holding her breath, fearing the revelation of something she wanted desperately to keep hidden. Curiosity got the better of me, and I asked, "So, is your mom's blood type A and your dad's B, or is your dad A and your mom B?" The table fell silent, the laughter abruptly snuffed out like a candle in the wind. His older sister's face twisted in confusion, her fork poised mid-air as her eyes narrowed in disbelief. I could feel the tension tightening around us like a noose, every pair of eyes suddenly focused on me, the air thick with anticipation. "What do you mean?" "He's O," she gestured toward her father, a mixture of disbelief and irritation crossing her features. The moment stretched, heavy with unspoken words, and I could see Jacob's expression shift from curiosity to concern, his brow furrowing as he exchanged glances with his siblings, who seemed to sense the impending storm. My heart raced as I realized that I had just crossed a line I hadn't even known existed. A sinking feeling settled in my stomach as I realized the implications of my question. I quickly stammered, "Oh, I was just asking about your biological father." But the moment I said it, I felt the weight of the room shift like a heavy curtain being drawn, revealing the storm lurking behind the scenes. Jacob's mom turned ghostly pale, her hands trembling slightly as she placed them on the table, her eyes wide as if she were desperately searching for an escape route. I could almost hear the gears grinding in Jacob's dad's mind as he processed my words, a mixture of confusion and anger flashing across his face. That's when I knew I had really messed up. Jacob's older brother shot me a confused glance, the gears in his mind visibly turning as he processed what I had inadvertently set into motion. "What do you mean, bio father?" he asked, his voice edged with curiosity and confusion, as if he were trying to grasp a puzzle missing its pieces. I didn't mean anything by it." I tried to backtrack, my heart racing as I realized the gravity of the situation, but the words tumbled out too late. Jacob's dad went stone-cold silent, his eyes darting between me and his wife. I could see Jacob's expression shifting from confusion to dawning horror as the realization hit him like a freight train. "Are you saying they're not my biological kids?" Jacob's dad asked slowly, his voice a chilling whisper that sent shivers down my spine. "Because my wife swore up and down in marriage counseling that they were my kids and would never cheat on me." The emphasis on never resonated through the room, sending chills down my spine. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife, and I felt like I was drowning in the chaos I had unwittingly unleashed, the walls of the dining room closing in around me as the reality of the moment sunk deeper. Jacob's mom quickly interjected, "I would never cheat on you. They're your kids." Panic washed over her face like a tidal wave, her hands clutching at her throat as if she could choke down the truth. But it was clear from the expressions around the table that the truth had already seeped through the cracks, and there was no way to put it back together. "OP, why do you think they're not my kids?" Jacob's dad pressed, his voice shaking with disbelief, his words hanging heavily in the air. The dining room, once filled with laughter and warmth, transformed into a battleground of shattered trust and rising tempers, the once inviting atmosphere now tinged with the bitter taste of betrayal. My heart raced as I realized I had become an unwilling catalyst in this unfolding drama, standing at the eye of a hurricane of emotions. The atmosphere was electric with tension, each family member's expression a mix of rage, sorrow, and disbelief, making me feel like I was trapped in a surreal nightmare. At this point, I was ready to sink into the floor, wishing I could disappear. The cat was out of the bag, and I had no way to stuff it back in. Jacob, after a quick Google search, because of course, started cursing his mom. "How could you do this?" he shouted, his voice cracking with betrayal as his emotions boiled over. I felt like I was watching a train derail in slow motion, unable to intervene or change the course of what was happening. The weight of his anger hung in the air, a palpable force that made the walls feel like they were closing in on us. Jacob's mom was now sobbing, her face buried in her hands as she begged for forgiveness, her sobs echoing in the silence that followed. The atmosphere was thick with anguish, confusion, and betrayal, a swirling tempest that threatened to consume us all, drowning out any hope for resolution. I felt paralyzed, torn between wanting to flee from the unfolding drama and a desperate urge to comfort Jacob, who was clearly grappling with the fallout of a revelation that would change everything. Realizing the scene was spiraling out of control, I messaged a friend to come pick me up, my fingers trembling as I typed. The chaos enveloped me, and I felt like I was standing in the eye of a hurricane, watching as the family I had just met unraveled before my eyes. The sounds of raised voices filled the air, a cacophony of anger and pain, and I couldn't help but feel that I was the unwitting instigator of this tragic unraveling. By the time my friend arrived, the family drama was in full swing, yelling, crying, and accusations flying left and right. I quietly slipped out the door, the weight of the evening hanging heavy on my heart. The sound of Jacob's voice, laced with pain and disbelief, echoed in my mind as I drove away, each mile feeling like a chasm widening between us, a painful reminder of the bonds I had inadvertently torn apart. In the aftermath, Jacob and I broke up, but not before the family learned through paternity tests that none of the kids were actually his. The fallout from that dinner table bombshell led to a swift divorce for his parents, the family I had hoped to be a part of now in tatters. The once bright yellow house felt like a shell of its former self, a haunting reminder of the night that shattered a family, leaving only silence and echoes of lost trust in its wake. The vibrant paint that had once radiated warmth now seemed faded and lifeless, a metaphor for the emotional devastation that had unfolded within those walls. I often found myself replaying that evening in my mind, wondering if there had been some way to avoid the calamity that transpired, the shockwaves of which would ripple through all our lives for a long time to come. Days turned into weeks, and the aftermath of that dinner lingered like an unwelcome guest. Jacob and I tried to maintain some semblance of normalcy after the breakup, but it was as if a fog had settled over our relationship. We no longer met with laughter and lighthearted conversation. Instead, our interactions were filled with a heavy silence that echoed the unresolved turmoil. I avoided social media, fearing the updates about Jacob and his family's unraveling saga. News of the divorce circulated among our mutual friends, and whispers of betrayal filled the air. It felt surreal, almost like I was watching a movie play out from the sidelines, detached yet deeply affected. As the dust began to settle, I sought solace in my volunteer work, pouring my energy into helping others in hopes of distracting myself from the guilt that gnawed at me. I focused on organizing blood drives, working tirelessly to contribute to a cause I was passionate about, but even that felt tainted by the memories of that fateful night. Each time I saw a blood donation truck, the sight was a painful reminder of the conversation that had spiraled out of control, of the lives I had unintentionally shattered. I found myself becoming increasingly withdrawn, avoiding social gatherings where I might run into Jacob or his family. Friends tried to reassure me that it wasn't my fault, that I hadn't known what would happen, but the weight of my actions hung over me like a dark cloud. Weeks later, I received a message from Jacob, one that filled me with equal parts dread and curiosity. He wanted to meet, to talk. My heart raced as I pondered what he would say. Would he blame me? Would he share how he was coping? When we finally met, the tension between us was palpable. Jacob's eyes, once bright with affection, were now clouded with sadness. He spoke of his family's fallout, the bitter arguments, and the deep sense of betrayal that had taken root in their lives. As he recounted the aftermath of my unintentional revelation, I could see the hurt etched into his features, the pain in his voice pulling at my heartstrings. I never wanted any of this to happen, I said, my voice trembling as I tried to express my remorse. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I know, he replied, his voice softening slightly. But you have. To understand, it changed everything. My family was already fragile, and your words just shattered it. The air between us felt heavy with unsaid words, and I could see that while he was trying to forgive, the wounds were still fresh. Our conversation continued, each word carrying the weight of our shared history. As we parted that day, I felt a glimmer of hope mixed with sadness. It was a painful reminder of what had transpired, but also a testament to the bond we once shared. However, as time went on, I realized that neither of us could return to the innocence of our early days together. The shadow of that night loomed over us, a reminder that some moments in life change everything irrevocably. The months following that fateful dinner were a blur of heartache, healing, and self-reflection. I learned to navigate the complexities of relationships, understanding that every interaction has the potential for consequences. It was a hard lesson, but one that shaped me in ways I couldn't have anticipated. As I grew more confident in myself, I started to rebuild my life, focusing on my studies and my passion for helping others. Eventually, I moved on, finding new friendships and experiences that helped me heal. I kept Jacob in my thoughts, hoping he was finding his way through the wreckage of his family life. Though we had drifted apart, I still wished him well, and I hoped he would find peace and happiness in the years to come. Life, as it often does, continued to unfold, bringing with it new challenges and joys. I learned to cherish the moments of laughter and connection, recognizing that relationships, like life, can be unpredictable. The experience taught me about vulnerability, the importance of honesty, and the power of empathy, lessons that I carried with me as I ventured into new beginnings. TLDR, I accidentally revealed my boyfriend's mom was unfaithful by pointing out that his older siblings, both AB, couldn't possibly be related to their own negative father. Chaos ensued. I ended up in the middle of a family meltdown, and while I tried to navigate the aftermath, I learned valuable lessons about trust and the fragility of relationships.